do you think that we're facing a complex crisis?
Yes. And it's only getting more and more complex. Apple, Amazon, Google have all made consumers want the Amazon effect every day. And I think all too often, restaurants are chasing the shiny object to make sure that they're fulfilling that. And they lose the core of the hospitality. They lose the core of the business-to-business, person-to-person interaction that says, you got a well-done New York strip, and this is what we're doing. And so I think it's gotten more complex. The amount of technology that they have. Our average customer has 14 pieces of technology within their restaurant. 14. And that's not including smart kitchens and all of these different things. And so, yes, it continues to get more and more complex. Restaurants are manufacturing plants. They just happen to be manufacturing a perishable good for somebody that wants it only during this window of time, which is a really, really hard problem to solve.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to welcome back on the show. I think this is the third time, believe it or not. The last time you were on the show was 2020, episode 755. He is the CRO of NorthStar Point of Sale, and he is the host of Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. Jeremy Julien, my man, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I am feeling unstoppable. I'm so grateful for you and what you continue to do to put out into the world, man.
Thank you so much. It's been a journey, man. It's a lot of fun, but you're also doing great work, and I can't wait to tap into your area of expertise. Obviously, it's restaurant technology. Today, we're going to be talking about the 3 reasons why restaurants fail with technology incentives, and we're also going to talk about the basically the trends, what's working in technology and what's not working in technology. But before we pop off, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got, Jeremy?
My thing is just keep going, man. Just keep moving. I like to think about, the little fish in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. At the end of the day, it's the people that continue to move forward like yourself that win in the world.
I think that's the secret to being unstoppable. It's not necessarily about going fast and going hard. It's about just starting and just keep showing up and just try to be a better version of yourself today than yesterday, right?
Yep. I love that other quote that's out there that says, if you're not embarrassed by your early work, you didn't ship soon enough. So keep shipping product, man.
Whenever I think about the first episodes I published, when I have to go back and listen to early content to get somebody back on the show, I listen to myself and just, it's rough, bro.
I moved hosting platforms about 2 years ago, and I had to go back and listen to some of those early episodes, and I'm like, I was bad. I was really rough, and I'm not nearly as accomplished as you are on the podcast circuit, but I'm at, I don't know, 250 episodes. I mean,
that's a lot, man. Getting to 10 episodes is a challenge just to get that ball rolling. 250 is once you get to that point, it's just like, just keep showing up. Just to bring
awesome.
It back to where we started, right? So, okay, real quick, last time we had you on the show, 2020, 5 years later, have there been big changes in the industry? Like what are like the big, we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves, but what's going on? What's new? What's hot?
The biggest thing that, and again, I'm sure all of the listeners would agree, prior to 2020, the adoption of tech, it was typically, we were very laggard. There wasn't open architecture. There wasn't open ways to try different things, but the pandemic forced a lot of restaurateurs to have to try new things. And so they tried things like third-party delivery. Prior to 2020, everybody was like, I don't want to mess with any of these things. And it's very rare today, and in today's day and age, where people don't have that. Pay at the table. We're not one of those places that's going to do pay at the table, or curbside. Or there were so many things that people would buck those trends because things were okay prior to 2020. And so the openness of restaurant operators and restaurant executives to looking at new technology has grown leaps and bounds. We'll talk a little bit later about why sometimes people are skeptical about doing these things and why they fail oftentimes. But at the same time, I think people's ability to make technology a differentiator within their brand is significantly different in 2025 than it was in 2020 and before that, for sure.
Yeah. What about you? Where are you? Where's your business at? So your core focus is NorthStar POSs. So our NorthStar POS sale. What exactly do you do? What are the services you offer? Just to help our listeners kind of get an idea of who we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'll give it a 30-second for those that didn't listen 5 years ago or maybe forgot that. So I'm a 30-year restaurant technology veteran. I started back in the mid 90s selling point of sale when it was still early Windows to age, and have grown up in the space. And so My day job is running the sales group for NorthStar Point of Sale. We sell multi-unit restaurant technology, so we really go after the multi-units. I know a lot of your listeners are independents. Still, we'll work with them, but primarily we go after multi-unit restaurants, primarily in kind of corporate environments where they've got multiple stores, and how do they manage different outlets across different states, different jurisdictions, different pricing structures. And we used our 30 years of experience working with brands like Cheesecake Factory, Outback Steakhouse, BJ's Restaurants and Brew House, and the like, Dairy Queen, using that experience to bring a new modern point of sale technology to the world to allow them to operate their business and help their guests and help the staff operate better.
So you don't just do POS though, you do all sorts of things that integrate with the POS, the extensions and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Labor management, recipe management, kitchen video screens, pay at the table, order at the drive-thru and pay at the window, order at the drive-thru and pay at the drive-thru. All of those different pieces of technology, we often will say, if you plug it into the wall, we know how to solve the problem for you within your restaurant. Not stoves and ovens and things like that, but a lot of the other things that are pure technology related, we have solutions, whether that be through partnership or direct, for restaurant brands.
Got it. So today we're going to be talking about the 3 reasons why restaurants fail with basically onboarding or integrating the technology. I'm curious, big picture stuff before we dive into, and maybe this is getting way too ahead. Maybe this is answered later with what technology is working and what technology is not working. Where do you fall on the line of enterprise solution in the app trap game? Like, do you have opinions there?
Well, philosophically, we believe, and some do and some don't, but philosophically, our leadership, myself, we all believe that restaurants should have freedom to choose what pieces of technology they implement for their business. Some other technology providers that are out there are at a place where you have to use their loyalty package, you have to use their credit card processing, you have to use their point of sale devices. We're of a different philosophy of, we believe every restaurant operates differently, their value proposition to the world is different, and trying to shove their business operations into the way the technology fits is not an appropriate way to go about it. We believe the opposite. Let us go in and consult and understand how the business operates, and then we'll mold the technology around that. That all being said, I think depending upon your brand, if you're a very frequent brand, having an app or having a way to digitally experience it, much more critical than something that's a destination restaurant that you only go on your birthdays and on anniversaries, very different experience. So
the big thing there, don't mold the technology don't mold the concept around the technology, mold the technology around the concept.
Yeah, and it goes really even into my philosophy early on when I worked in restaurants. If somebody asks you for something that you can make in the kitchen, don't tell them, no, it's not on the menu. If you've got chili and you've got hot dogs in the back and you don't have a chili dog on the menu, you've got a hot dog on the kids menu, you've got chili for fries, and they ask for a chili dog, go figure out how to make it. It may cost them a little bit more. It may not be exactly in the point of sale to be able to go charge them what you would want to, but telling a customer no is not necessarily the way, in my opinion, to win. Understanding and how to come up with a solution for what it is that they need, in my opinion, is a better use case. A quick 30-second example of that happening, and we became a customer for life. My wife, when she was pregnant with our 4th child, had a gluten intolerance. And so we went into a restaurant. They were serving bread before the meal. She said, hey, do you have gluten-free bread? They said, yeah, we do. Let me go get it for you. They had run out just before we got there. The server ran to the market next door to get gluten-free bread because that's what she needed. That to me is hospitality. That to me is what restaurants do. And if we're one of those restaurant technology companies that's like, you can only, do it this way because that's how our system works, that's not an appropriate way to serve your guests in my mind.
Right. So I think the big thing, what I said before, mold the technology around the concept, not the concept around technology, but also the freedom to have choice to work with what makes sense for you. So in other words, open integration platforms.
Absolutely. And we founded NorthStar on that philosophy that says you're going to come with your tech stack, and our job is to figure out how to make that simple for you so you can serve pizzas, so you can make cheeseburgers or whatever it is that you're serving within your brand.
Got it. All right. So again, today we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why restaurants fail with technology incentives. So those 3 big reasons, just list off the reasons without getting into any description. Go for it.
So the first I see is that the project lead, whether that's the owner, that's the general manager, they don't set good, clear targets as to what it is that they're trying to get accomplished.
Okay, that's number one. What's number two?
They don't resource the project appropriately. They will add it to somebody else's plate that's already full, or they don't hire the consulting group, they don't hire the technology partner to come in. So the resources are sometimes financial and sometimes human capital resources.
So that's number two. And number three?
They bite off more than they can chew. They try and boil the ocean and try and do too much, and ultimately they don't get the results that they're looking for, and then they get in kind of a downward spiral with the staff where now they don't trust what it is that they're trying to do.
Awesome. And we're going to wrap this up with technology that is working and technology that is not working. So back to the top, don't articulate visions accurately. The number one reason why restaurants fail with new technology incentives. Get into it.
So getting a clear destination of what you're trying to get accomplished and writing it down so that you can cast vision for your project team that is working on it is something that I think everybody should do with any initiative, quite frankly. That initiative could be rolling out a new menu, but it could be as much as changing out a full point of sale, which is one of the hardest things for restaurants to do. And so articulate, what is it going to look like? I actually use for my own team on all of our projects. We happen to be an EOS house. I know you're a big fan and I've heard quite a bit about EOS.
Huge fan. Actually, can I use this opportunity to announce that I am collaborating with EOS and I have an EOS integrator who's going to be making himself available quarterly to basically, if you're an EOS restaurant, and that is the entrepreneurial operating system first founded or mentioned in the book Traction by Gino Wickman. Or if you want to become an EOS restaurant, we are going to have quarterly meetups where we can just support each other in our EOS practices. So huge EOS fan. Sorry for that selfish point.
No, and I knew
really
that I threw out that trigger word knowing that it was coming back around. But anytime we do our rock planning, I ask every one of our rock owners, and for those that aren't familiar with what a rock is a project that's going to take a longer period of time than just a week or two. It's going to oftentimes take multiple resources around the business to get done. And so I ask them to do what we call as an impact filter. I stole it from Dan Sullivan. He's the founder of Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan is an amazing entrepreneurial coach out of, he lives in Toronto. He also has an office in Chicago. He's taught more entrepreneurs. He actually taught Gino Wickman and helped Gino get his stuff on. But he has a one-page summary that's called an impact filter. And the impact filter, I ask everybody to do that. And it starts with, what are you trying to get accomplished? What is the project that you're trying to do? What does it look like if it's successful? What does it look like if it fails? What are the things that need to happen in order for this to be a successful? And you write all of that out so that you have a vision casting experience to be able to deliver to your operators, to your kitchen staff, to your restaurant people, to your ownership group, whatever this project is, setting a very clear vision for what you're trying to get done in writing so that it's not, I misremembered 3 months from now when the project launches or whatever else, but it articulates that. And it really gives you high side, what's going to happen if it wins, low side, what's going to happen if it doesn't win, and a whole lot of other pieces. And so I even keep the impact filter on my desktop as a document because I use it every week, at least once a week. And so what do you want to accomplish? What's the biggest difference it'll make? What will the completed project look like? What's the success criteria? What has to be true when this project is finished? And then what are the best results if everything works well? And what are the worst results if it doesn't work well? It's all on one page, but it gives you clear vision to be able to cast that down to your staff, to be able to understand what are you trying to get done.
Yeah, there's two books I've been kind of coming back to a lot this year as I really want to focus to do what I want to do here in Restaurant Unstoppable. So it's a matter of staying focused, reconnecting with that annual goal. Those two books that will help you with this to compound on what you're sharing is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. And Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog. Both of those books are essentially, they teach you how to stay focused and to set goals and build strategy and to stay accountable to those daily routines and habits you need to reach your goals and strategies. It's powerful stuff.
Both fantastic books. I would also, there's a couple other ones that I like to throw out. Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden. It's all about procrastinating for the things that you shouldn't be doing so that you can focus and get enough energy for the stuff that you should be doing. Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I'm sure you've had lots of guests have talked about Essentialism by Greg McKeown. and then the one thing by the founders of Keller Williams, Gary Keller. Very good. All three of those were really instrumental in helping me to drive vision and to understand. So the one thing by Gary Keller, Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and Procrastinate on Purpose, they will add to those other two books, which I've read both of those as well. They're both awesome.
Oh, I'm writing these down. They're going onto my list. Thank you very much. Okay, so far we are covering don't articulate vision accurately enough. That's the number one reason why restaurants fail in implementing new technology incentives. And you said they need to have clear vision, they need to write things down, and they need to articulate accurately what they're trying to accomplish. We do that with Clear Rocks or the impact filter. What next?
The next piece is understanding what resources need to go into articulating this vision. Now that I have a clear vision. That's number 2. That is number 2. And
nothing else to mention with number 1. I don't want to be pushing it too fast.
I shouldn't say that. I mean, if you truly are going to do this, now you have to articulate that. So you have to first write down what it is that you're trying to get accomplished, and then you got to get buy-in. For any project, you've got to get buy-in. So now, who are the people that's going to be affected? Is it going to affect your kitchen staff? Is it going to affect the people that are doing purchasing? Is it going to affect the people that are doing payroll? Is it going to affect marketing? Who is it going to impact within the brand? If it's a solopreneur, different conversation than I've got a team of 20 people. You have to articulate that to them so that they understand why you're doing this. So now you get momentum and buy-in from them once you put this rock planning and or this impact filter on paper, and you kick off a project to be able to help them know what it is that you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me in the book Traction. I'm pretty sure. No, this is in 10x is easier than 2x, or maybe it is Traction. My books are starting to bleed together, man. They say you got to get it, or whoever. If you're delegating a job, or if you're giving more work to somebody, in order for that work to be successful, the person doing it has to get it. They have to understand it. They have to want it. And they have to have the capacity to do it. So
yeah, that's Traction. That's GWC. That's part of the core premise of EOS for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, this is really making sure that people understand. Okay, they have to get it. If they're with you,
what you're trying to do.
Right, and they also have to want to do, like, if you're giving somebody the dishwasher a technology rollout job, and maybe that just wasn't on, like that wasn't in the job description, they didn't want to work on technology, then it's not going to be successful. They have to want to do it, and they have to have the capacity, the natural ability, the skills that you train in them to be able to execute it. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. So GWC, I talk about GWC all the time. Every time somebody comes to me and complain about a team member, I'm like, GWC. Which one is it missing?
But I think also what you mentioned is they have to understand the why. If they're going to do something, they need to know what's the benefit, what's the reason. Right?
Yeah, why am I going to work hard to get to this destination? And again, most owners are visionaries, and they're going to help them articulate that well.
So clear vision, the outcome of what the job done right looks like. Clear rocks and impact filters, and like getting specific clearly, like what does this look like, the strategy, and then getting people to buy in and communicating the why, and the get it, want it, have the capacity to do it. Anything else before we move on to the second reason why restaurants fail integrating technology?
No, I think that clears it up. If you do that well, you're on a good track. It doesn't mean that you're going to succeed, but you're definitely on a good track to succeeding.
So number 1, don't articulate vision accurately. Number 2, don't resource the technology appropriately. And you started getting into it, but pick up with that train of thought.
Yeah, I think oftentimes owners and leaders, they've set the vision, they've told everybody where they're trying to go, but they don't get close enough to those people to understand what is going to fall down if I'm working on this project. What am I not going to be able to do if I'm working on this? And so they add to an already full plate to a general manager to roll out a labor scheduling program. And that general manager is already working 90 to 100 hours a week, and they don't have an extra bit of capacity, or they get super intrigued and super excited about this new project, and something else falls by the wayside. And so understanding what are the priority matrix that need to happen in order to do that. So that sometimes could be, hey, I don't need you to build the schedule for the next 6 weeks while this is getting built out. We're going to give that to the assistant manager to get done. You're not going to be doing, whatever that might be, understanding that. It might be hiring a consultant. It might be going on Fiverr to build out your core menu in your point of sale. It may be any number of things to ensure that the work is getting done and other things within the business aren't falling down. Or you know that they're going to fall down because social media is going to get, we're not going to do social media marketing, or we're going to build up a whole bank of social media and we're not going to be as engaged in it because we've got to spend time working on this new loyalty program or whatever that might be.
Got it. I mean, when I hear you say this, like when we think of growth, I mean, a lot of the advice we get on the show is you constantly have to be growing. And growing, I think when people hear that, they think, oh, opening more units. But growth is also just doing what you're already doing better. So when you get to the point where, it's time for that second, third, and fourth unit, you have a system that's finally like mapped out and scalable, right? Growth can be doing what you're already doing better, and also, taking your GMs who have like, hey, you're really great with technology, I'm going to move you to be the technology manager, and creating growth within the organization so you can make room for the next wave of general managers to move up. You don't have to move a general manager to a new store to create areas for growth. You can give them more responsibilities to help you be better.
Absolutely. And I think that and I would tell you, you have to be careful not to just throw on top of it and keep piling on one project after another, understanding where they sit on that project scale, right, and what other things might you need to take off as the owner or give to somebody else, because as restaurant operators, so many of us want to serve. So many of us want to say yes. So many of us want to help. And we think in our head, I mean, like any construction project, like any restaurant opening, like any menu rollout, it always takes twice as much time and twice as many hours and costs more money because we think that we're going to be able to do it all. Our brains got us to a place where it's like, oh, we're going to do everything. And they don't consider that something else is going to fall down. One of the other things I love to tell my team is if you're focusing on one thing, you're clearly not focusing on something else. You can't do two things at once and focus on both at the same time. And so if they're focusing on this technology initiative, they can't be focusing on certain other things. And so you've got to balance that and resource it appropriately, or ultimately, I've seen lots of things fail because they just throw it on top of somebody and the project continues to drag out. It does never get done. They never hit the impact filter and the rock planning to be able to get there because they're working on these other urgent and, Eisenhower Quadrant 1 items, urgent and important things, and they never get to the important but not urgent items like these initiatives.
So when you're talking about resources, the primary resource that we're not using well is human attention, right? So yep. If you are going to be bringing on a new technology, this actually comes up a lot with Restaurant Systems Pro, which is a company I believe in, and it's an enterprise solution. And a lot of the reasons why restaurants struggle getting onboarded with Restaurant Systems Pro is because it's a massive undertaking. You're yep. basically starting from scratch. You are reorganizing your entire business, and you need somebody to be fully focused. That is their core focus. That's all they do. Whether that be you, because you freed yourself up with delegating, or whether you find a general manager and free them up to do it. But I think the core thing is you have to free up your key players. You have to take things off their plate, delegate it to the next wave of management to create that vertical growth for people and create lateral growth at the same time by moving people aside to focus on projects. Like that's what I'm picking up from you.
100%. And I think, and resources can be, human capital is a huge piece. There's also financial capital. Resourcing it, if this partner comes to you and says, hey, we can do some of this work for you, you just have to write a check. In that, one of the things that I didn't put down in the outline, Eric, that I think is something critical is understanding what the costs are going to be and seeing technology initiatives not as a cost, but as an investment. It's an investment into your people. It's an investment into your business. It's an investment back to systems, processes, growth, all of those kind of things. I often will hear people that don't do well go look at it and go, oh, it's just an extra cost rather than an investment in my business to make my lives of my team members better, the lives of my customers better, the lives of my general managers better. And so, that's resourcing as well, I guess, in that regard.
What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up was, a lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, just hire more people and create more management roles like with an already tight budget. But I think the question is, when you are like, what are you going to gain from, taking this 1 month to onboard a technology? But what's the outcome? What's the opportunity from that work that you're doing? So I guess the follow-up question to that was, how do you prioritize, which technology to focus on? Like, what is going to have your biggest ROI, your biggest opportunity cost? And like, where do you start when like trying to prioritize what technology to improve?
I think it's the rock and the shoe idea, and especially EOS businesses, they see these things that continue to come up and they're the items that continue to be IDS. I think doing evaluations on a quarterly basis of your business and saying, where is it that we want to change? We just talked to a customer recently, or prospect, and they're like, no, we like to manually schedule people. We like to have them on a spreadsheet. And it's like, well, help me understand, in today's day and age where it's hard to hire employees, it's hard to get them to stay on board. And now you want them to come in every Thursday to ensure that they can see what they're scheduled for next week. That's craziness. So, but it's so expensive to get a labor scheduling project. It's like, well, okay, then you're going to continue to turn employees. And now looking at that. And so where are those pain points? What are the consistent ongoing items that continue to come up in your business when you're doing exit interviews for employees? And so I think it comes back to having your ear to the ground to understand what it is that your team members and your customers are saying. Sometimes that's in a feedback tool. Sometimes that's in just walking the dining room and talking to people. Sometimes that's in your exit interviews. If you're having a hard time continuing to bring employees in and they're only there for 6 or 8 weeks, ask them, why are they leaving? What's going on? Ask the people that are staying, what did they say to you that they're frustrated with? And then prioritizing those items. That could be labor scheduling. That could be guest feedback. That could be something as simple as the packaging isn't stored close enough to the takeout area, and putting a little locker to put those things so they're not having to run to the back because they've got a frustrated customer looking to get. Those are like super simple things that can move the needle in a pretty significant way if you understand and put your ear to the ground as to what your customers are saying and what are your employees saying. Don't worry about the shiny object that your partner next door, to your left and right are doing. What is your team saying? And what are your customers saying that is the biggest frustration with doing business with you? And then figure out how to prioritize those items.
Yeah. And you said IDS earlier today. That means identify, discuss, and solve. And that's back to the EOS L10 meetings that you have weekly to find these opportunities to get better. So, great stuff. Okay, so we've touched on number 1, which is don't articulate vision accurately. They went over to number 2, don't resource the technology appropriately. And then after that, number 3, are we ready for number 3, or is there more you want to add to don't resource technology?
No, I think we're good. I think we're good to jump into number 3.
Number 3, they try to do too much too quickly. Get into it.
Again, I think everybody wants they want the beach bod, right before they head off on vacation, but they don't realize that takes time to get there. And so you've articulated the vision, but having a game plan to say, we're going to start, I'll use inventory management, a theoretical food cost. They start and they start measuring salt packets and flour and every single thing that's in the kitchen to ensure that it's perfect. And they get caught in the weeds and try and get every single item, instead of saying, you know what, we're going to start with just our proteins. And then we're going to move from our proteins to our vegetables. And we're going to move from our vegetables to those next items when I'm doing theoretical. Or I'm just going to start with automating my purchasing and using an EDI solution, electronic document import mechanisms to be able to do purchases and have it come in. So they try and bite off too much and then ultimately aren't able to fulfill that vision. And then they get dissension within the ranks of their team. And their team starts to say, oh, this isn't working. Again, you're launching a website. Don't launch in public and have a huge paid ad campaign. Launch with some friends and family to launch a website ordering. Launch, really, really small. Try and figure out what is the smallest viable project you can work on to see if it's going to work, and then iterate. As you're rolling these things out in every single project, labor scheduling, inventory management, point of sale, online ordering, third-party delivery. I mean, I could go on and on and on of the different pieces of tech, but I think figure out what is the smallest viable project that you can do, just test the results, iterate, and continue to go, versus we're going to launch loyalty and we're going to, put it, blast it out to 300,000 people that we have in our database that we're launching loyalty, and then it doesn't hit the mark. You don't have your staff trained up. They don't know what the issues are going to be. It starts to fail. And I'm sure you've seen this before, Eric. You walk into a restaurant, it's like, oh yeah, the owners want us to do that thing, but it doesn't really work. Those things happen a lot. And at the end of the day, it creates a really bad guest experience, whether that be inventory, labor scheduling, or something that's customer facing.
Yeah. So it kind of brings me back to Eat That Frog, Brian Tracy, the whole idea of that book. How do you eat a big, slimy, gross frog, or how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And I like how you started with, menu engineering or costing recipe cards, right? And inventory. So, okay, if this is a project we have to do, what is the biggest, most impactful thing we can focus on in inventory? Well, it's our most expensive items. Proteins.
Or the ones
meats.
that have the biggest theft.
Right.
It's avocados, it's eggs, and during the egg scare, earlier this year, it's liquor in a bar. What are my high value liquor items?
Right. And if we start putting inventory and costing around these most expensive items, then that's going to have the biggest impact on our P&L. Right. And then you just start from there. So whatever's going to have the biggest, take a bite, make it be the most important, significant bite that if you get this done, it will have the biggest impact, and then it starts compounding.
Absolutely.
Cue Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect.
Love that.
Those two books are great together because they just compound off of each other. All right. So number 3, they try to do too much too quickly. So you're saying really focus on the things that are going to have the biggest impact, finish that one thing until it's done, and then move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. And again, you can still continue to cast vision that says this is where we're going, but no different. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, but he has his baby steps when you're talking about financial peace and financial freedom. Is you start with, getting a $500 emergency fund, and then you go to paying off all your debts, and then you go to, and it's this small compound effect, going back to Darren Hardy, of you start to create momentum. When I get all of my beef figured out through inventory, through my inventory and my food costing. Once I get my beef done, now I go to my fish. Now I get my fish done, I'm going to go to my chicken. Now I can start to look at lettuce because I've started to build momentum and I got all of the pieces figured out on those larger items. And so I think way too often the owners will cast this vision, drop something on somebody's plate, and come back in 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 weeks and go, why isn't it done already? Versus giving people permission to iterate and continue to grow. Because you know what? You might start with your beef and realize that there was a yield problem, that there was a problem with my purchasing, that there was a problem with the import, whatever that might be. And now you're not trying to take up too much, and it's taking away from all of the other things that you need to do within the business, because now you're focused running down this rabbit hole, and the ownership group or the leadership group is upset because they're not getting the results that they're hoping for.
All right, so from the top, the 3 reasons why restaurants fail with new technology incentives. Number 1, they don't articulate the vision accurately. Number 2, they don't resource the technology appropriately. And number 3, they try to do too much too quickly. So now that we understand better how to approach implementing new technology and what we can do to, prevent ourselves from not succeeding in doing that, what are the big technology trends right now? What is working in 2025 when it comes to technology?
So probably the biggest thing that we hear from people is the ability to pay for your meal wherever you're engaging with the brand, whether that's online, whether that's in the drive-through, whether that's at a QR code in, somewhere. There's so many different places that that people want to be able to pay. There's huge friction points in restaurants. It takes the longest amount of time, is ensuring that payment can get done quickly and effectively in the area of your meal preference. And again, I say meal preference because depending upon what kind of restaurant you are, you're going to take payment in different ways. So sometimes that means pay at the table, with a pay at the table type device. Sometimes that means pay at the drive-through, a la Chick-fil-A. So lots of different ways, but I think payment and ensuring that you're able to meet the guest requirements is a huge piece.
So meeting the guest requirement is being able to meet them at all those interfacing points for payment.
Yes.
And who do you see right now who's doing this well? I know one company comes to my mind that's covering all those bases, but I want to see what you have to say first.
So again, I think, Eric, it depends on what kind of brand you are. I think everybody on this call is familiar with Toast. They've done a fantastic job of normalizing even pay at the table in the United States. Square just came out this week with a handheld ordering device. We've had one for a couple of years to be able to do ordering and payment. And that's been really, really helpful. We have a brand in the Carolinas that's doing close to 20% higher sales volume because they put payment out and they've reduced the friction while you're in the drive-through. Again, I think we've all been familiar with the Chick-fil-A model, and you look at what kind of AUVs they're doing inside of their stores, being able to get those orders, but also talk about it, meeting the guests where they are. My wife, my daughter love to order on the app and drive through the drive-through to pick it up. So investing in that technology to meet the guests where they want to be is huge.
Yeah. So in terms of POS companies, Toast and Square have the tablets, tableside ordering, stuff like that. I know Spot On is another one that doesn't get a lot of love that I think should. What are your thoughts on Spot On?
I'm less familiar with Spot On than I am with Toast and Square, and primarily because in our two trade areas where we do the most of our work, they're not as prevalent. Funny enough, I spent a little bit of time with that team. There are a lot of industry veterans, and so they know what they're doing in that regard. And so I think I'm sure if you've heard, I've not heard a lot of success on the order at the table, pay at the table. I've heard a lot just kind of on core point of sale that they've done a good job there on the core point of sale side of things. And so. But you kind of asked them, and again, we've done tableside ordering and tableside payment at NorthStar for quite some time. Not all brands are gonna want that, but I can tell you that meeting a guest where they are with the payment method that they're looking for is really, really critical in 2025.
So looking at these filters, online ordering, app ordering, counter ordering, drive-through ordering, tableside ordering, Toast, in my mind, does online. They give you an app, right? They have counter service. They do. I'm not fully familiar with Toast online or drive-through technology where they're at with that, but we do know they have tableside. I'm also thinking of, there's a lot of like redundancy in the world right now too. The company that I was thinking of when you mentioned the ability to pay wherever you interface with the brand, I was thinking of Olo. Do you have opinions on Olo, and is Olo even necessary if your POS does all this?
Olo's struggling right now. If you look at their stock prices, they've been struggling. I've known Noah since he founded the company a number of years ago. Great guy, and had a fantastic vision. Unfortunately for him, a lot of a lot of technology providers have gone in. He was early online ordering, and so he got a lot of market share. The product is fantastic, but a lot of people have now come in and built what they're looking for. I don't know that it's one size fits all. Going back to some of our early part of our conversation, I think they have a great product. I think if it fits for what you're looking for, it's awesome. But I also would tell you, go look at the competitors that are out there, whether it's the one that your point of sale is provided, or it's Lunchbox, or it's Onasis, or I could go through lots of different online ordering providers that do allow you to, do what you need to do as a business. I want to make sure I mention this before we get too much farther, Eric. One of the things that technology providers do, and Apple's done a fantastic job of it, is they get you into their ecosystem, so it's hard to get out. When you get into the Toast ecosystem, you use Toast handheld, you use Toast payment method, you use Toast inventory, and they start to close off the walls. Aloha did it many, 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 many years ago, where they start to close off the walls to the other interfaces, which now locks you in to their ecosystem, and it's hard to get out. Again, Apple doesn't lock you into their ecosystem, but they go the opposite and say, you know what? If you're on a Mac, if you're on an iPhone, if you're on an iPad, if you're on an Apple Watch, we're going to just make your life easier. A lot of these other providers, whether it be Spot On or Toast or Square, once you get locked into their ecosystem, it's hard to get out, whether that's you bought their loyalty. And so I would tell all of our listeners, just be careful that you don't take everything from your point of sale provider, because getting those loyalty providers or those loyalty members migrated out of Toast loyalty. And again, I'm not picking on Toast, but just out of Toast loyalty, just as an example, sometimes it's not as easy as it might seem. Shift4 is doing some similar things. They bought some different companies and they make it hard for you to get out. And, NCR did it. I was at a brand, 6 months ago or so, and they're like, you know what, this is going to be a multi-million-dollar project to get away from Aloha because I now have to replace so many different pieces within my tech stack. It's easier just to stay with what I have with Aloha than it is to even change.
Right. So, we got down this path. I was asking you about Olo. You said keep your mind open. There's other technologies that compete well with it, and then you went on to say technologies are getting really good at keeping you in their ecosystem. So I guess the question is, because there's so much overlap, right? And I think that restaurateurs, their heads just start to spin. They're like, what is the best option? And I think what we have a tendency to do as human beings is we defer to word of mouth. We defer to what the number one is. And we just take well, everyone else seems to be saying Toast, so let's just go in this direction of Toast. And they have solutions that, Olo also provides or Lunchbox also provides. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm this is a weird topic for me because I worry about some of these technology companies getting way too big and way too powerful and that not being good for the restaurant industry, right?
It is absolutely 100% the case today. I've seen restaurants ultimately fail because they partnered with some of these larger brands, and now they've got these multi-billion-dollar companies that they're trying to chase money. Most of them are riding on a fintech platform, financial technology, and they're in your credit card statements. And so they can go take money out of your account or stop depositing funds to your account whenever they want. And again, I'm not looking to, throw shade at anybody, but I've seen Shift4, Toast, Spot On do things. I shouldn't say that. I've heard from existing users that I've not actually seen the bank account, where they've taken money out of their account for things that may not have been appropriate. Now they sit on hold for these 800 numbers trying to get their money back from these brands because they're now in their financial flow. And so I just would tell you, be careful not to get too sucked into if it's too good to be true, it probably is kind of philosophy.
There are very predatory loans out there, specifically coming through these POS companies. I would highly caution you from taking money from your POS company, especially if they have the ability to debit from your accounts.
And all of them do. All of them that have to sign up with their credit card provider have the ability to take money out of your account. And oftentimes they'll do a lot of these bait and switch things. They'll throw extra, hey, we'll give you 60 days of your labor management for free. And then the minute that 61 days hits, they're charging you $500 a month more for the labor management.
Right.
You didn't even know that it was in there. That's a very common one. They'll throw these extra features on in a try and buy, but it's on page 6 of this 20-page contract and nobody saw it. And now their operating costs went up. They're increasing their credit card fees every 6 months, and they have no control over changing those things.
Right. And you better believe that these predatory practices are coming top down from the stakeholders.
Absolutely. Which is Wall Street at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things, I try to be counterculture in a sense. There's a lot of parroting happening in the industry right now. Let's be honest. If you're one of these big companies, you have the budget to influence influencers, to buy influencers and to parrot messages. And it's really hard for the restaurateur to really know what's reality. Anything that's online today is likely a marketing ad. The majority of content being created today has money behind it, and it's harder and harder to find out what's the reality. So thank you for being open and getting into some of this stuff, because I don't think it's discussed enough.
It's not. It's amazing when I look, and every once in a while I'll get forwarded a Reddit thread. I mean, because I host a podcast about restaurant tech, I'll get forwarded a Reddit thread where somebody ultimately lost their business, or they weren't able to make payroll because they sucked this money out and they weren't able to pay their employees. And they got really, really hurt. And so as somebody that equally is very passionate about watching restaurants succeed, I hate when people do these things. Part of why we feel you are not going to tell us how to operate the business. That's even from a configuration perspective, but it's also, we don't force the credit card provider. We don't force the online ordering provider. We don't force the KDS provider. We don't force the point of sale terminal provider. I mean, you go through the list, whereas a lot of these guys, they're multi-billion-dollar companies. They really don't care about the restaurants. They care about Wall Street and hitting their stock market price every quarter. That's really what they care about, more so than they do about watching your restaurant succeed.
I would like to go deeper into the subject of these predacious loans that these POS companies are issuing. Do you know anybody? Do you have any points of contact? Do you know people who are experts in this field, or maybe I should get you back on the show to talk about this?
I'm happy to share. There's a guy that's a pretty prolific blogger, Jordan Thaler. He writes a blog called Reforming Retail. And
that's who I had in mind. I was wondering if you're going to say him.
No, Thaler and I are relatively good friends, and we've hung out from time to time. And he's very passionate about making sure that they don't do these types of things. He writes a blog. I would, encourage many of your subscribers to at least take a look at it, because he tells the truth. He has a little bit of spiciness to him.
I like that.
From time to time. He's a little bit, but at the end of the day, he also looks at what they've done. He published an article the other day where the credit card effective rate, meaning I did $100 in sales, it should be in that kind of 2.5% to 3.5% range, depending upon what type of cards you use and what your check average is and those kind of things. 2.5% to 3.5% is what it is today. Philosophically, I think it should be a lot lower than that, but that's where it lands, 2.5% to 3.5% ish. They had one of the providers that didn't mention, but is another one of those big ones out there. Their effective rate was 10% to process credit cards. So for $100 in sales, they only got $90 back from the bank. 10% is huge. And that's just, it was insane. And he published an article recently where he showed an actual statement from a credit card provider, and it went from like 6% to 10%, because ultimately this is what they do, is they'll continue to increase, and they'll go under the auspice of you're too risky, or if you had too many chargebacks. They make up these different fees and reasons why they're increasing the rates, and you're just ignorant as a restaurant owner and a restaurant operator to even know that. And now you're fighting City Hall, and you either change out your point of sale or you deal with the fee structure that they've given you.
Yeah, I would love an introduction to Jordan, if you're willing to make that, to go deeper into the subject. So, we got down this path by starting with what technology is working today. And you said the ability to pay wherever you interface with the brand. And that's kind of how we ended up down this rabbit hole. Any other bullet points along that main vein there?
No, I think just being very clear about what it is that you're signing up for as well, I think is just a big piece that I would tell people to look at. Again, there's so much out there on the internet. 20 years ago, you couldn't go find some of these things, and now you can go. There's bunches of Reddit threads, and I know there's a whole bunch of Reddit threads, and even if you're not a Redditor, there's a whole bunch of Reddit threads on restaurant technology. What's everybody using for labor scheduling? What's everybody using for point of sale? What are you finding out about? I'll just use Toast because they're one of the largest that everybody knows about. What are the things you like about it? What are the things that I need to be careful for? And making sure that the brochure matches the actual product, that what they sold you is what you actually get, and that you can control it, is a big piece of what I would tell everybody to think about as they're going out to do technology initiatives. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if, as we go forward, you're going to see more and more fractional CTOs and fractional CFOs. I feel like in the world of technology, those two verticals, or fractional CMOs. I think the technology associated with your financials, the technology associated with your just general technology, like stack, your tech stack, and then the separate tech stack associated with marketing. All three of those things are becoming more and more critical. And I think the world of fractional chiefs, fractional executives is going to be on the rise. Back to our points earlier, the three reasons why restaurants fail: they don't articulate the vision, but the second two, they don't resource the technology appropriately, and they try to do too much too soon. So those last two, the resourcing of it and knowing how much to do when, like that's what a technology or chief executive people know, that executive level of like what it takes, and they specialize in this stuff. And I think that's going to be one, the fractional executives, and two, more operating partners that are specialists in finance, technology, general tech stack stuff, and marketing technology are going to be partners in the business. Just because it's that important.
I've found quite a bit of new businesses over the last 4 or 5 years that have done exactly that.
Yeah.
How do I use all of the gray hairs that are in my goatee to help people to accelerate their success?
There's business opportunity in that. If you're listening to this and if you accelerate in financial technology, general technology around restaurant operations, and marketing technology, like you could become a fractional executive, a fractional chief.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to do in today's day and age. There's lots of people out there in the space. You can hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever, and I can share some different people that can help. Yeah,
for sure. And then, I think just with that's kind of what I'm curious about. So in terms of what is working, no other thoughts? Because there's a lot to discuss in the world of technology. I don't want to get ahead of you.
Yeah, I think payments is a big piece. I think digital ordering is a huge piece that's working and working well. I think partnering with a core third-party provider, not just lighting it up, but having a partnership with them to understand what it is, whether that's Uber's really big in your...
So you're talking about delivery, third party.
Yeah, Uber Eats, but it could be just digital ordering. That's one of the other things I would say to Eric is with the right partnerships, you can even not launch your own website and just use DoorDash or just use Uber Eats as your digital ordering platform and not have to manage it 2 different places. Having those partnerships to understand what it is that your goal is and then partnering with them there, but being able to offer a digital platform to be able to do ordering within your brand is mission critical to today's day and age. I think more and more people are getting away from tickets in the kitchen and going to KDS. I think KDS is a real game changer within the kitchens. It gives you data to be able to make better business decisions, but also automates your kitchen and makes it run so much smoother when done properly.
Do you get into the world of marketing technology?
I do.
In terms of marketing technology, what is working? Like, what are you seeing out there? What are those trends?
So probably the most effective is text. SMS messaging to be able to get to your guests is huge. So capturing your guests at the point of transaction is a really, really big piece. So how are people doing that? Sometimes it's on a pin pad. Again, it depends on your operation, but ensuring that you have a way to communicate with your guest. We're finding SMS is still, over 90% of people read their SMS messages that come through marketing, whereas less than 15% read the emails that are coming through, depending upon how good of a brand you are. So capturing your guest phone numbers to be able to communicate with them, really, really, and getting permission to be able to talk to them, hugely helpful. Something that I think more and more people need to be thinking about in today's day and age.
So who's doing SMS well? Like, what companies come to mind in terms of how to communicate with your customers through SMS?
Some of the point of sale providers, I know Toast and Square are doing it and are doing it well. There's a little Thai place in my town of 10,000 people that I'm on their Square deal. And ironically, when I'm not thinking about Thai food, I'll get a 10% off coupon sent to me. And it's like, hey, amazingly, some pad Thai sounds really good tonight. And so it's in my, so again, some of the core point of sale providers, I think at a larger level, honestly, there's 3 really big players in the loyalty space, Thanks, Paytronics, and Punch, that are all, doing a good job with the right brand. Again, probably not, my birthday's next week, at the time of this recording, sending me a birthday gift this week or, over this next few days, whether that's via email or via SMS, different conversation for a brand that I might need to go out and have dinner with my family, larger transaction volume, those kind of things. Different deal than, hey, come in and get a free dessert because you haven't been in here in a few weeks. But those 3 players, Punch, Paytronics, and Thanks, are all doing a fantastic job of engaging with the guest and using AI and the data to understand them a lot better.
So for the right brand, it was a little, subtitle you put there. So in terms of Thanks, what would you say the right brands are, business models?
Higher check volume, larger, better experience, experiential type brands where you're food forward, you're high value, you're in the community kind of thing. They're very high touch, and they do a remarkable job of understanding what your customer is and being able to help you do that, help you communicate with them in a really good way.
So full service, fine dining, high touch.
Yep.
Got it. What about Paytronics? Same thing.
Paytronics just got acquired. They were one of the early ones. They got acquired by the Access Group, and they're doing a really good job, I think, across the board at like spreading peanut butter. They do a really good job if you've got a legacy point of sale solution, an Aloha, a Micros. They also will interface with all of the big guys, Toast and such. But they do a really good job if you've got an internal marketing group that can help you run the program.
Why is that?
Because it's very mature software and it requires somebody to administer it.
Got it. Okay. And then Punch, who's that ideal for? QSR?
Punch is, QSR, fast casual. I would say higher ticket volumes in a fast casual type environment. And by that, it's the Chipotle kind of esque type brands, Kavas of the world. They're a little bit more expensive and are looking to drive, frequency and guest feedback in that regard.
Got it. Thank you for those details. I mean, it's just in my mind, there's just so much out there, and it's just like, well, like, give me some, like, a little extra to know where to focus my attention based off of who I am. And I agree with you. One of the reasons why I'm pivoting with Restaurant Unstoppable and focusing on RUNetwork is because I've driven myself crazy trying to figure out, like, what is the secret, the path to be successful in the restaurant industry. And the truth is, to your point, there are no two restaurants that are exactly the same. There's so much diversity in the restaurant industry is that you really, it depends on what is your concept, what is your model, where are you trying to go, what are your, like, there's so many variables that you have to figure out.
Where are you geographically?
Exactly.
I mean, that's another big one.
Yeah. It's tough. It's really tough. There's a lot to consider. So really just being open-minded and trying to figure out what's best for who in all variables, all circumstances. So, okay. So SMS marketing, what about email marketing?
It's not dead. It's just, you're not going to get the same return. I think it has to happen. I shouldn't say I think it has to happen. I know it has to happen. But now with AI particularly, and I don't want to talk about AI just to talk about AI, you can micro segment people based on the point of sale data. I can send Eric likes bold red wines and red meat. I don't want to send him, he's never ordered fish. I can create a campaign that's specific to getting Eric to drive a ribeye steak and a Bordeaux wine because that's who Eric is. I can get, my wife, she likes margaritas and she likes Pinots. You know what? Unless I'm trying to just migrate her, but giving her a flowery white wine in a marketing message with AI, you can get hyper segmentation in an email and an SMS for that matter. If you tie the point of sale transaction to the guest, to the marketing engine, you can do these things and replicate them and have 4,000 different campaigns going out at any one time by market segmentation. With AI, those are possible. 10 years ago, that was a whole department's full-time job doing that. And so I think you have to be in all of those different areas in order to be relevant.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really comes down to one-on-one marketing, right? Really tailoring the message to the individual. And with AI, you can drill down to, you can take a list of 10,000 people and drill down and use AI to tailor the message for you based off the data.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of, this kind of gets into the world of ethics, with this data. I actually had one of the companies that you mentioned today, I won't say which one, reach out to me interested in sponsoring the podcast. And one of the things that they want to be able to do in the agreement with the sponsorship is to put a pixel on my audio. So now if you listen to my podcast and that ad is on that show, they can follow you everywhere on the internet, follow your behavior, know if you come to their landing page. But it's not just you coming to their page and purchasing their solution. It's everything that you're doing online. So now they can take that data to tailor the message to you. And I said, no. I said, I'm not going to let you get that data on my listeners. I'm like, there is like, at what point at what point does marketing and persuasion become manipulation and brainwashing? And with that level of data, and when the consumer has no fucking idea when they're being marketed to, that crosses that line, in my opinion. Do you disagree or agree with that?
I think it's happening every day. I think everybody is looking for hyper local, hyper customized, and I think done ethically, where people understand it, I think it's fine. I don't necessarily know that a third party that is not necessarily the provider of the tech or whatever it is an appropriate way to go about it. And I think that's that to me, I think does cross a line. I think at the same time, as a restaurant brand, understanding that everybody only has a certain amount of wallet share. And so knowing that they're going to choose your restaurant over somebody else and creating a value proposition. I mean, this is always my argument, Eric, is how do I create more value for you to be able to make it the brand of choice rather than just because I was better at marketing and better at ad spend and better at retargeting on Meta or Google or whatever those things might be. And so I think, I also think that regulation is going to come into effect as time goes on. More and more, it has to. And I think it's, that's right. I mean, I've got kids. I watched the Social Media movie a couple of years ago that came out. It's pretty scary what they do know about you, and understanding that and trying to make sure that you are being wise about it, and rather than being just sheep that follow what hits you on your ad feed is pretty critical.
What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master on restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
Yeah. Okay, so we covered a lot about what is working. What is not working in regard to technology today?
Can I give you one more that I think is working that I think everybody needs to be considering? If you don't have a guest feedback mechanism, you have to get one. You have to get one. So one that I think is amazing. The guys at Ovation do an awesome job. There's a couple other ones that are out there that I would say I like and do a good job. The thing I love about Ovation is it's a one-line text message. And understanding what it is that's happening within your brand and what guests are saying about it. It'll manage all of the socials. It'll manage Yelp. It'll manage TripAdvisor. It'll manage Google, but it also can send you a text message post-meal. And if you give them a 5 on a rating scale of 5, so it's a text message that says, it's happy face, medium face, and a sad face. It's a sad face. It engages the general manager at the store almost immediately to ensure that you're talking with them. If it's a happy face, it's, will you go give me a 5-star review on Google, which we all know that is a huge, and it automatically plugs it as a 5-star review, and whatever you might have already typed into that message, flows through. And so being able to get that feedback, I was just in Chicago last week. We're talking about this, or actually earlier this week. And I was talking to an operator that uses guest feedback. Again, there's lots of them out there. I think Ovation does a fantastic job, but get something that's manageable. That's not just tech for technology's sake, but is really hearing what the guests are saying. They had one of their cooks that was screwing up and was using table salt instead of kosher salt to salt their fries. Brand new cook, had been trained. Clearly something happened. But within a day, they had so many pieces of guest feedback about how salty the fries were, high volume place. They were able to solve the problem within 48 hours that this cook was putting the wrong kind of salt on the fries, creating an awful guest experience. Without that feedback, you could drive away customers forever without knowing that, versus understanding those pieces of feedback in real time to be able to go solve it. Guest recovery is also a huge, huge, huge component. We all know that getting a guest is expensive. Keeping a guest is easier than going and getting a new one. But if you don't, you have to be able to recover them if they've got a bad experience. So knowing that and being able to get that feedback quickly, and then having a system to manage it, so it's not just on the general manager, it's on the leadership team that can go do those things in a fast and efficient way, is huge.
Yeah, I agree. Ovation is a great platform, recommended a ton of times on the show. You said there's some other guest feedback options out there that you were impressed by. What are those? I have a couple too, but I want to see what you say first.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I can see the guy's face. What are the couple that you have, and I'll tell you if I'm familiar with them.
Two platforms that have come up recently, often for me, one being Sunday App, and the other being Marquee.
Marquee is awesome. I spent some time with their founding group, but that's not the one I had. I had them on my show. I'll have to send you a note back about that, Eric, because I'm gonna screw it up if I go there. There's quite a few players that have been out there. There's actually players that are even moving into the space that are from retail and other places. Yeah, and even some of the loyalty providers will give you that. Some of the loyalty providers that we talked about, they do some guest feedback pieces.
Yeah, I just had Avi Gorin on the show. One of the last interviews I did when I was in Texas. His episode won't be live until like September, likely. But he's with Marquee, and they are more on the like in my mind. Marquee is more of a digital customer feedback. So you have the in-house experience, which Ovation helps you capture, but then you have online. You have OpenTable, you have Yelp, you have Google reviews. So it aggregates and creates a dashboard of all of your online reviews. And it also lets you kind of respond to all those platforms too, right? So it kind of brings in to one place a way for you to manage all those reviews and to also push all of your number one marketing asset, your menu, to all these different platforms. So if you update it on Marquee, it aggregates and pushes almost like syndicates your menu.
Yep. Yeah, no, Marquee does a great job. I was with him this week earlier.
Avi Gorin. Yeah.
Avi Gorin, great guy. I actually saw him in Phoenix at their restaurant leadership conference as well. But Tattle is the other one that I was thinking about. So if you haven't heard of Tattle, Alex Belcherini, I think is the guy's name, founder, built Tattle. They take a different approach.
Last name, Alex, what was his last name?
Belcherini, I think is his name. Beltirini, I think.
Got it. And that's Tattle.
Tattle. Yeah. Get.tattleapp.com.
Get.tattle. And what do they do?
They're same guest feedback. So I'm looking at, they've got Mellow Mushroom, they've got Hooters, they've got Mod Pizza, they've got Robex, so Burgerville. So lots of brands, Yoshinoya. So lots of brands doing things with Tattle. They take a different approach. So Ovation's super, super minimalist. Let me send you a text message and let me try and get the feedback in real time. Tattle is much deeper, and they go into the psychology and the word cloud of what people are saying to figure out menu innovation and some of those kind of things. So Alex was on my show probably 2 years ago, and I can send you a link to put into the show notes.
Yeah, I'd love to connect with him as well. Always looking for these leads. This is my research, man. This is how I find who I'm going to talk to. And this is what I love. So thank you for all these leads.
So it's episode 177 on my show. Alex, Beltrani, his CEO of Tattle, customer experience improvement, CXI platform that integrates to point of sale and stuff. It was published on May 8th, 2023.
Got it. And the other, I just want to tap in terms of customer feedback. I want to dive a little bit deeper into Sunday App. How are you doing on time, by the way, man? We're over.
I've got a call in 20 minutes. So
okay, good to know. Thank you. So Sunday App. So similar to Ovation, slightly different. So I spoke with the founder, Victor Lugger of Sunday App, and I would say, in terms of customer feedback in four walls, if you're a QSR, Ovation seems to be optimized with a QSR, but Sunday App is a pay at the table first solution that also offers customer feedback, much in the way that Ovation does, where when you get the check, after you've made the payment, there's an option to leave, how was your experience? Mm-hmm. Good or bad? Good, leave us a 5-star review. Bad, notify the manager. And it also, from what I understand, provides a better at the table checkout experience for the guests in terms of like being able to split up the bill and being able to pay with multiple people at once. And I guess the technology is really good, and you get that customer feedback as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that the old Yumpingo guys? Because Yumpingo, the Yumpingo used to be that same idea. And the founder ultimately passed away, unfortunately.
No, different guys. So Sunday App started out of Big Mama Group, I believe. Victor Lugger is a restaurateur out of, I want to say, France. And they scaled to like 30 Italian concepts across Europe, and they rolled out this technology for their own restaurant. And now they kind of, the app has like grown legs, and they're now serving other restaurants with it. So.
Yeah, no, they Yumpingo does the same thing, actually. Their guest feedback, and again, they're partnered. They got bought by Black Box Intelligence, which is a data aggregation tool for all restaurants to figure out trends and things like that. They compete with Technomics.
And
on the restaurant
Blackbox
space.
purchased Hot Schedules too, right?
No, the founder of Hot Schedules became the CEO of Blackbox for a while.
Oh, is that what it is?
Hot Schedules is now owned by Fourth out of England.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to keep track of all this stuff, man.
But every day there's new acquisitions.
Have we even talked about what's not working?
We have not gotten there yet.
All right, let's get into it.
What is not working? Disconnected systems. Disconnected systems is the biggest failure I see, whether that's third-party delivery, online ordering, guest feedback, point of sale, kitchen video. Having those things non-integrated in disconnected, disparate systems is really something that I think people need to be considering.
Did you say kitchen video?
Even kitchen video. I've had people that have a kitchen video that's just for their third-party delivery and not for their in-store restaurant. There's a local Chinese place that we go to for dim sum from time to time, and it's annoying as heck because their tablets are just dinging in the corner of the restaurant all day long. And I said to the owner, I'm like, why don't you integrate those to the point of sale? Because they're sitting there and they're trying to serve the table, but they've got this dinging behind them, and it's not that hard to get those third-party delivery orders.
That noise. Whenever I go to eat and I hear the third party just going, I'm like, that is so obnoxious. It's
so
obnoxious.
I think having those disparate systems really creates this huge divide within the restaurant, because now they've got split attention. They're thinking about the tablet, they're sitting at the table. And so that's just an example where I see they've got a loyalty system that's not integrated to the point of sale. So they're sending you flowery white wines when you only drink reds, and understanding those things. So having those things disconnected is a huge no-no in my mind. And I think it's really, really hurtful to what restaurants are not doing.
What's one tool to help you connect these third-party platforms to, is there an aggregator or a connector that you really like?
Not any longer. What
did you like?
Omnivore used to exist. It existed essentially to bridge these gaps. And while it still exists, it is now an asset of Olo. And it really is used to integrate Olo's platforms together. So Olo purchased them. Early investment by Coca-Cola, Omnivore, OMNIVORE, like a omnivorous, I'm eating fruits and vegetables as well as meat, but they really set out to integrate all of those platforms. There's not a whole lot of players out there. There is a shout out to a group called Restaurant Technology Network. They are housed out of the Hospitality Technology Magazine group. They are trying to get industry standards for all of these integrations so that all of the point of sale players and all of the new tech providers are able to talk and have a unilateral relationship with each other and the integration touch points and stuff. They've been working on that project for a couple of years now.
And so say the name of that company one more time, the second one you mentioned.
Restaurant Technology Network, Hospitality Technology Magazine. So the Restaurant Technology Network is put on by a group that they're trying to do think tank and trying to get restaurant technology companies to talk to other restaurant technology companies and create standards like HTTP and POP and some of these things that we live with every day on the internet and email. They're trying to create that same ecosystem for restaurant tech so that they can talk to each other, because it is really, really hard. It's probably the hardest thing that we do as a restaurant provider because we are so open, back to earlier conversations, and it costs us lots and lots and lots of time and lots of money. But it, fundamentally, again, philosophically, we believe that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So Restaurant Technology Network, who's also behind Restaurant Technology Magazine, and what's the name of that technology itself?
They're just trying to create industry standards. So it's okay. Really a group of restaurant technology. So you have to join the Restaurant Technology Networks, then you get access to those standards, and then you can build to that to each of those standards and work hopefully seamlessly amongst all of what different piece providers that are out there. Unfortunately, there are not any aggregators or pieces of software that can be. There's no Zapier or if this then that for the restaurant tech industry. If you're not familiar with Zapier or if this then that, they're like tools that'll take Gmail and connect it to your Facebook account and allow you to bridge those two.
Yeah. So all right. So anything else in terms of what's not working that we need to talk about?
I think it's really sexy, but I think it's something that people need to be leery of. Is voice AI. I think it's coming, and for the right use case, it will work. But I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around voice AI. There's a lot of companies that raised a whole bunch of money. There's some that are really good, And then there's a bunch of people that have raised a whole bunch of money and have people sitting in a call center somewhere in a third world country actually entering those orders manually from the voice and making it think like it was voice AI coming back to the guests, whether it's in the drive-through or it's on a phone order or things like that. And so I think you just got to be leery.
What's that? Really well.
I would say the guys at SoundHound are doing a fantastic job at it. They're probably the for lack of a better term, they are the gold standard of out there. They are inside of Mercedes-Benz and a lot of different cars. So SoundHound, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Ben runs their sales group. He was on my show as well. I just spent some time with them. Kia does a really good job. KEA, Adam Ahmad. Those are probably the two that I think do it well and are using tech and AI to try and help automate a lot of business operations with voice.
I was looking something up. I need somebody in the background looking these things up for me so I can listen while while I'm just searching for things. So you said SoundHound. What was you said? Kia. What was the one before?
Those are the two that I would say you should look at.
Wasn't there another one?
I would just tell you be careful because every day I get a new voice AI company saying, "Hey, we can do this," because of the large language model being open. A lot of people think they can do it. And I just think that it takes a lot of work to get there. So that's one that I would say is, you just got to be cautious of. Yeah. I think it'll get there. I just don't think it's quite there at the same level that people think it is.
Yeah, I know there's some restaurateurs who are doing this in-house, who are creating their own in-house voice answering. It's kind of crazy what's happening in the world right now of restaurants. Like the fact that a restaurant owner can build their own AI voice answering machine, that's a possibility, is crazy in my mind. Another one that came onto my radar is for Eva.ai. Have you heard of them?
I haven't. Literally, Eric, I get weekly texts from people.
I get it. 100%. It's overwhelming. And it's so hard to know what's real and what's bullshit. I think, again, word of mouth is still king. And I think as the internet gets more and more complex and noisy, we're going to go back to just talking to people because like you can't filter through all the noise on the internet and you don't even know what's real anymore. So cool. SoundHound. Okay. Anything else we have not talked about before we say goodbye? I have a couple.
I think I would just tell everybody to be careful that they don't sign long-term contracts, with their providers. Technology changes so often. It's so much easier to change core technology within your brand. And
what's a good contract? 2 years, 3 years?
3 years, I would say max.
Okay.
I have a customer that make sure that if you can work it into your contract, that if the partner gets acquired, that you can get out in your contract. Because that's a big one. We talked about acquisitions a little bit ago. One of the bigger providers in the space just got bought by another provider and they've changed their business model altogether and essentially have stopped. But I have a customer that signed a 5-year contract right before that acquisition. Now they're stuck with this other provider for 5 years and they hate them. And they had moved to that new provider to get away from the old provider. And now the old provider bought this new provider and now they're stuck for 5 years. And so I would tell you 3-year max on your contracts, unless you've got a really, really deep relationship with them and you know that it's going to be there for a while. And then that you have an out if you can in your contract.
So one thing that did not come up today, I'm curious about is enterprise solutions. Where do you fall on enterprise solutions?
Tell me more about what the question is, because that's essentially all I do is enterprise solutions, mid-market to enterprise, 15 to 500 store kind of things.
So in terms of enterprise solution, the software that comes to mind is a Restaurant Systems Pro or a Restaurant 365. And I think Toast is kind of falling into that world of an enterprise. My brain's starting to shut off. Solution.
Yeah, I think so. I would argue that Restaurant 365 and Toast are not necessarily built for enterprise. I would tell you that they were built for the single operator and are migrating and adding features and functions. I think there are certain systems that are out there that were built for the enterprise.
So when I say enterprise, it's a one-stop shop for literally everything that you would need. Base systems.
I was thinking enterprise as multi-unit, venue and those kind of things. Yes. So, I think those are all things that if they meet the business requirement are critical to ensuring that you are partnering deeply with them.
Yeah. And when I mentioned the fractional executives, like a fractional CFO, really what I'm seeing is like they're masters in Restaurant 365. And they just basically roll out Restaurant 365 clients and they just manage the the P&Ls, the numbers, the data that streams in once they get it set up appropriately or accurately. Delegating this to a financial executive, a CFO, and I think I worried. I throw Restaurant Systems Pro in that mix too. I mean, they've been a great supporter of what I'm doing here at Restaurant Unstoppable, but I also don't know of another enterprise solution that offers general ledger, costing, recipe costing, purchasing, inventory, labor management, training, all in one spot that's all fully connected. And Restaurant Systems Pro just rolled out their own POS, but they also integrate. To your point, they're willing to play with everybody. They'll play with 7 shifts. They'll play with Schedulefly. They'll play with, MEES with inventory management. So they are open, and they are an enterprise solution. They have their own general ledger. They have their own POS. I think if I'm opening a restaurant tomorrow, I'm going in that direction, knowing that those are the foundational systems that I need.
Yeah. And I would just tell you that back to the contract conversation, that you have the ability to take parts of it and move it if you need to. So if their point of sale is not doing what you need it to, and you need to put in, Toaster, Puncher, Toaster, Square, or NorthStar, or, something else in there, don't get locked into having all of it, because now you've got very little leverage over that provider. Right. You may love their inventory management, but hate their financials. Well, be comfortable that you can change to a Sage Intacct or a Restaurant 365 on the financial side, and that you can still do that. And it sounds like this provider allows that opportunity, which is great. Yeah.
One last question. Do you think that we're facing a complex crisis?
Yes. And it's only getting more and more complex. Apple, Amazon, Google have all made consumers want the Amazon effect every day. And I think all too often, restaurants are chasing the shiny object to make sure that they're fulfilling that. And they lose the core of the hospitality. They lose the core of the business to business, person to person interaction that says, you got a well done New York strip, and this is what we're doing. And so I think it's gotten more complex. The amount of technology that they have. Our average customer has 14 pieces of technology within their restaurant. 14. And that's not including smart kitchens and all of these different things. And so, yes, it continues to get more and more complex. Restaurants are manufacturing plants. They just happen to be manufacturing a perishable good for somebody that wants it only during this window of time, which is a really, really hard problem to solve.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a very complex subject to address, this idea that there's just more technology than ever before. And I wonder if it's just getting to the point like, Moore's law is a thing, right? Where the world is constantly exponentially improving. The technology is getting better and better, but humans' ability to keep up with the rate of change is not exponentially improving.
Yes.
So where's the breaking point? Like, how long can this continue to expand before we just lose complete control and just can't keep up?
Well, over my left shoulder, I just finished Will Guidara's book about hospitality. And I think really it's defining who you are and what point you want to make in the world. Yeah. Is it the best food in the world? Is it the best hospitality? Is the best drinks? Is it the best, going back to some of the stuff we talked early on about empowering your team to give you feedback. I just really think that there are people that go out to eat. There are people that get, food because it's sustenance. There are different ways that people are interacting. You need to know who you are and do it to the best of your ability, it would be my suggestion to our listeners.
Got it. Well, we're almost at time, and I still have to give you an opportunity to hit us with a call to action and some contact information. So what do you got for us?
I'm on all of the socials, very, very active on LinkedIn. Jeremy Julien, restauranttechnologyguys.com, CBS NorthStar.com, both business pages. Love to have you as listeners. Love if you guys have anybody that wants to be a guest on the show. Love to talk with them. Restaurant Tech, or just restaurants in general. I love restaurants. I'm going to take 30 seconds, Eric, to just say, you know what? You were one of my early inspirations to start the podcast. So thank you for that, because I wouldn't be 250 episodes in without your encouragement and the things that you did for me on a personal and professional level. So thank you for that.
Well, stoked that you got it launched, man. You're doing great work. And I have a feeling this won't be the last time we collaborate. You're going to be one of my go-to technology network people Would love to get you back. And this was a live recording. If you wanted to join us live and engage with Jeremy, you could have if you joined Restaurant Unstoppable Network. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live to join all of our future live conversations. Your network is your net worth. And over the past 12 years, I have built quite the network, and I want to share it with you, my listeners. And Jeremy is just one of these people. We'd love to have you back. And I know you have a meeting that starts in 1 minute, so I'm going to let you go. And this is where I say I cannot do what I do without people like you. You make what I do possible, man. There is no question. You are unstoppable.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Cheers.